Hey everybody, what is going on? This is NGS back again for another video. First and foremost, welcome to 2016. It is currently January 3rd, 2016 as of this recording. Hope all of you guys have had a happy new year and a blessed holiday season. This is the long-awaited Star Wars The Force Awakens spoiler discussion. Yes, I talked about it in my review that I did. That review was essentially an advertisement for this video because all the cool stuff I wanted to talk about with The Force Awakens, well, they dipped into spoiler territory. So here we are today, 3 weeks out from the movie. I've got a couple of special guests to join me on this journey. First and foremost, longtime collab and fan of the channel, we have Danny D's World. Hey Danny, how you doing, my friend?
I am doing very well, and I am very much ready to discuss.
And we've got the one, the only. It's been a while since he's appeared on the channel. To be honest, I can't even recall the last time I've actually had this guy in a video. It's pretty sad, but we go way back when to the old school days. I'm talking like, what, Qmon 2 territory? We have Crazy Black Man 108. What's going on, Adam?
Nothing much. I'm here ready to talk about my life, my hobby, my passion, which is Star Wars.
Yeah, it's great to have the resident Jar Jar Binks fan back.
Oh, I think that's the last video we were all together. It was when we did that like weird podcast and y'all got into it about the holiday special and how Adam was shilling for it. Something along those lines.
The backpacking shoes.
Oh yeah, the
The
angry
Force
Chihuahua.
has led me. The Force has led me to not allow my anger to flow through me when someone says I'm a Jar Jar fan, but that is okay. Years of being in seclusion helps.
To give y'all some context, this was almost 3 years ago. We did that recording, I believe, May of 2013, and I only remember that because we were talking about the new Star Trek movie that had come out. But that's in the past. Today, we're going to talk about The Force Awakens. Now, this is going to be a really interesting video, and the reason why I wanted to do it and bring on these two guys is because we're all coming from different perspectives when it came to approaching The Force Awakens. So we have Crazy Black Man 108, obviously, you know, longtime diehard Star Wars fan. The dude even created, you know, a separate channel dedicated just to Star Wars content. This is a guy who was extremely optimistic about the movie. I mean, from the second that Disney acquired Lucasfilm to J.J. Abrams' announcement as a director, this guy was all for it, on board. Then we have Danny D's World. Danny, you know, like Adam, is a longtime Star Wars fan, but he was cautiously optimistic about this movie ever since he heard J.J. Abrams was going to direct the film, and the fact that the EU was getting gutted. Like, let's just say it took a very long time for Danny to come around to this. And then we have me, the guy who is a Star Wars fan by movie trade, I guess. I've seen all of the films, the original trilogy and the prequels, and I've dabbled in the cartoons here and there, but I really don't have that much Star Wars knowledge outside of the movies and maybe a novel here or there. So we have three different perspectives. We have the guy who was really optimistic about it, the guy who wasn't, and the dude who, I don't know, just watched the movies. And that's where I want to start off this video. Guys, what did you think about The Force Awakens? I want to start with your perspective, Adam.
Well, The Force Awakens, this film was something that I never thought would happen. As a kid, at the age of 3, I watched the original trilogy, and it was something I've watched every single day. And my dad, what happens next? And he's like, well, they made comics and they made books, but there's going to be no more movies that follow these characters. So due to that, when I reached the 4th grade, I started really like reading, and so I decided to read the expanded universe. I loved it to death. It was something that I was very passionate about, and I mean, I collected the books, I collected the comics, I read everything that there was. But in years, I've come to a realization that the quality had really dropped, and I kind of had also felt that like I didn't know where they were going. So, Disney buys Lucasfilm and stuff, and now they announced right away Episode 7. I'm like, wow, what like this is gonna happen. And so with that happening, and then they getting out the EU, I was like, dang, well, I kind of like what some of the EU had in place. While some of it, I thought degraded over the years, some of it was still really good. So I'm like, how's this going to do better? But I had faith in the company. I had faith in what was being released and put out, and I just had hope. Because I figured there's no way you can do this bad if you're getting the right actors and everything with it. And for long story short, when we get to this point now, I love the film. I on my newer YouTube channel that I do for just Star Wars stuff. It's Crazy Star Wars Fan 108. I literally, and after the film ended, my first viewing, I was like quick to jump and say like I think this is better than the originals, and that's that's saying a lot for me because I put the original trilogy on such a high pedestal that like there's almost nothing of Star Wars that's been able to touch it or surpass it in terms of something that's been created. But The Force Awakens, as of tonight, I've seen it 5 times. I saw it again today in IMAX, and from the plot to the characters to the practical effects to the special effects, it's it's a masterpiece of film to me. Just it's a great way to continue this saga and this franchise that I love, and I was very happy with it.
Nice, nice. I want to hop over to Danny to give his thoughts on the movie. What did you think about The Force Awakens, man?
Uh, well, to really explain this, I should actually probably back up a little bit, and explain where I was going into all this. I was very, very apprehensive about the whole thing. I was very nervous about there even being an episode 7, let alone a continuation. I didn't know what they were going to base it on, what their idea was going to be. Um, and then you find out that the expanded universe is no longer canon, so that we can do what we need to be able to do with the story, and that had a lot of people really upset, myself included, because a lot of people were like, well, why can't they adapt something that's already in the EU? But and they were like, well, we need a bit more freedom than that, and if we are beholden to a book and trying to put it into the movie, then basically what we're doing is saying that the books trump the movies, and we can't do that. That would mean only whatever we were able to fit into the movie would be canon now anyway, and that would make people mad too. And so it's like, I did not know how to feel. I mean, when I got into Star Wars, I was actually a little bit older, but I rented the VHS tapes of it because I'd actually never seen it. I'd heard about it and I'd seen references to it and everything, but I'd never seen it. And when my mom found out, she took me to the video store and we rented all three. And I watched it, and I fell in love with it. I loved it. And then one day at the library, I mean, I just accidentally found out there was an expanded universe with books, and that these books were, quote unquote, canon to a degree. I mean, what with the whole tier system they wound up having to invent. But to me, that was just amazing. And reading that, and some of the stories were just really, really good. The problem is, like, I can admit that for every really, really good one, there was also a few that were just kind of blah, or one that was just really, really bad. Crystal Star. But anyway, um,
New Rebellion.
but I wasn't sure I was willing to give up the good ones, to continue that. And eventually I did calm down and I did kind of think about it, and they started putting out new books and everything, and I was like, I may as well give this a peek and see what they're doing now. And, there's no sense in, hating this if I haven't even seen it yet. And so, much to the chagrin of people in certain Facebook groups I was in, I said I was going to start reading those. And I did. And they were actually really good. They weren't the ones that were out at first. They weren't anything quite so stellar, maybe, but they were actually really interesting. Lore expansion, and I mean, considering they were set in the past, I mean, it was what was it? A New Dawn, I believe,
Yeah,
was
A New
out,
Dawn
and
was the
and
first one to be
and,
released.
and Tarkin came out, and I mean, while not necessarily anything uh terribly new, I mean they're both like technically prequel books, but they were just really good, and it was very interesting to get inside Tarkin's head and see what made him the man he was, and interesting to see what happened to basically get Kanan in with the crew of the Ghost, and see how he came to basically be. It was I just I didn't know still yet if I was gonna like it or not, going forward, but it wasn't bad. So to say I hated it would be kind of silly. I just wasn't really sold on the idea that it was worth getting rid of the expanded universe yet. And then the movies started coming out, and there were stills coming out, and trailers were released, and they were pretty cool. And then that big one was released, the first official full trailer, and
Oh yeah, most definitely.
that definitely sold me on it. And
Danny and I both were very big, I'd say, Luke Skywalker fans, and so you released that trailer and you got Luke giving the lines from Jedi. I, as a fan, I don't know what else you could ask for to just get you hyped up for the continuation of these stories.
But I really enjoyed the movie. I liked it a lot. I can sort of how do I say this? I can kind of understand some complaints and what some people might not like, although I think they're really overblowing it. But there's also a lot of stuff I don't understand. But personally, I thought it was great. It was an interesting place to start. They give you as many questions as they had answered, maybe even more. So you're definitely interested in digging into this more and finding out more. And good thing too, because look, right out there waiting for you, a whole bunch of books that are going to explain stuff leading up to this, explain stuff about the movie itself. I mean, it's all right there for you to find out, and it was honestly a brilliant move on their part, marketing wise. But it also just kind of hammered home, how interconnected the expanded universe is with the movies now. Like this is the first time it's really felt like one solid canon, and that to me is a beautiful thing.
Sweet. So we've got different perspectives from both Danny and Adam that sort of kind of led into the same thing. I mean, y'all already saw my review on it. You guys know what I thought about it. I kind of had a different opinion coming out of The Force Awakens than I do now. When I came out of The Force Awakens, I really did enjoy it. I loved it because, I wasn't as hard on the movie as, let's say, Danny. I mean, I was interested in it, but I was not really seeing anything that would get me excited about it. And I came out of that movie with all of my skepticism squashed. And I was just like, man, this is awesome, because you don't get that feeling. You really don't see that happen in Hollywood. A lot of times people say, oh, just wait for the movie to come out. They'll prove you wrong. And they really don't. And Danny and I are witness to that. TMNT.
That's a whole nother video waiting to happen.
Spoilers. Tease for the future. But yeah, so I was really surprised. I was shocked at how much I found myself enjoying the movie in the theater, laughing, close to tears. Just a really solid movie all around. But what really got me to really appreciate the movie wasn't when I saw it, it was afterwards. Danny mentioned how the movie leaves you with just as many questions as it does answers. It started getting me thinking about a lot of things related to Star Wars. And like I said, I'm a fan of the movies, but all this other stuff like expanded universe, I mean, I barely know anything about it. I've dabbled in it here and there, like I said, but, nothing too crazy.
I'm going to fix that.
Both of y'all, which is where I was leading into right now. I was so interested in it that I hit up both Danny and Adam. I'm like, hey, I can't wait for the next movie to come out. Can you guys recommend me more content? And first thing Danny and Adam recommended was me checking out the Clone Wars TV series, the CGI one, and I've started watching that. Adam, actually, for Christmas, he gifted me a Star Wars comic book, and I started reading that as well. So there's just so much Star Wars hype going on right right now in my mind. I just can't contain it. So I went to go see the movie again. And when I saw it again, it gave me a better appreciation for it. Because usually when I go into a movie, I'm just like, okay, impress me. Let me see what you will do. Usually I don't go in with an open mind per se if I already know certain things. But when I went into it, I knew I was going to enjoy it a second time, but not as much as I did knowing so much more about the movie. So this is a perfect opportunity to segue into the next part of this discussion, talking about various Easter eggs in The Force Awakens. Because upon the second viewing of The Force Awakens, I was able to notice a lot of things that I didn't the first time around. I mean, first time around you're seeing a movie, you're not really looking for these things unless they're blatantly in your face. You know, you just want to enjoy the movie. But on my second viewing, it got me thinking that this film, there's a lot of interesting things going on for the future, but it also details some things that happened in the past with prior Star Wars movies, with the Star Wars lineage, the entire legacy behind it. So I'm going to pass it over to Crazy Black Man 108 to fill us in on a couple of those things.
So yeah, the one big thing that I've heard a lot of people, I've recently, a lot of people have added me to different Star Wars groups on Facebook, which I think is really great. 'Cause I like being in there most of the time and seeing what people are saying. And everyone is having this big confusion because with the old expanded universe, the main cast did go on and have kids, and in the expanded universe, you had Han and Leia getting married, having two twins, Jason and Janna, then having a third kid, which is named Anakin. Those are the Solo children. Then Luke Skywalker met a lady named Mara Jade, she's wonderful, but I'm not gonna talk about her too much today, till later actually. And the two of them got married, and they had a kid named Ben Skywalker. Now, what causes the big confusion is that whenever anyone goes and looks that up now, they see that. But with this new movie, all that's non-canon. So the big confusion that a lot of people are having a hard time understanding, from what I've noticed, is seeing that Han and Leia did get married in this canon. And they got married and they had one kid, though, as far as we know. And as from the way that they talked about him in the film, it doesn't seem as if there is another kid. And they have one son, and they named him Ben, which is similar to what Luke did with his son in the past EU, or in Legends. I'll refer to it as Legends to make it simple. So Legends and canon, that's how we'll do this. So in Legends, Luke named his son Ben, but in the canon, Han and Leia named their one son Ben. And Ben becomes Kylo Ren. He takes up that name once he becomes leader of the Knights of Ren. And that's where a lot of people there's a cause of confusion, because people do not understand that Ben was Han and Leia's son in the canon now. So, if you look at a family tree of things, you have, I'm just going to go back as far as Shmi, actually. I'll just go back from Shmi and work my way down. So you have Shmi, and then through like midichlorians, miracle type of thing, Anakin was born. Anakin marries Padme. Anakin and Padme have twins, Luke and Leia. Then you have Han over here, which is on the outlier on this side, Han Solo. Now you break the family tree down. Han marries Leia, who they have Ben. Luke, we don't know what he's done. We'll speculate on that later, but that's all the continuation of the Skywalker lineage as far as we know currently, officially. And that's something that I think people just should have a clear context on.
Yeah, that was something that I definitely did notice, Adam, especially in those late night conversations we'd be having and speculating about the next Star Wars movie. You were telling me bits and pieces about what happens after Return of the Jedi with Han and with Leia. So it's pretty interesting to see, how things are kind of coming full circle with The Force Awakens. Like, they're familiar, but not too familiar. And since we're talking about EU, well, Legends is what it's officially titled right now, I want to move into some of the complaints that I've seen leveled against The Force Awakens. Danny touched on this briefly, where he understood some of the complaints people were having towards the movie. Some warranted, others not so much. And there were a couple of things that we wanted to zone in on in this video. Since we were talking about the expanded universe, there's something that I think Danny can explain this better than anybody, since, well, he was kind of a part of it. When Disney announced the acquisition of Lucasfilm, and they announced that going forward in the future, all of our movies are not going to be based off any portion of the expanded universe. That caused a lot of controversy with the Star Wars fan. If I recall my first video, I was saying that I hope that they don't gut the EU for whatever reason. There's been a movement going on within a certain subsect of the Star Wars community. A lot of people out there have made it their purpose to bomb the movie, as I would say. Well, obviously it did not work, but there's a good majority of people who, for whatever reason, did not like The Force Awakens, simply based on the fact that it is not part of the expanded universe. And since Danny was a part of this movement and how he's since converted from it, I think he can best speak on this.
Well, I should clarify. I actually, okay. Here's the thing. I should clarify. I was technically not part of that movement, but what I was part of turned into that, and that's part of why I left it. It was originally it was originally conceived as basically a movement to try to keep the old expanded universe stuff alive, the legend stories.
The Alliance to restore the legends.
Oh yeah,
basically, yeah.
Well, basically, I mean, it became a point. At first, it was like trying to convince Disney not to do it, and it's like nobody realistically thought that was going to happen. But people thought maybe if Disney knew that enough people wanted it, that they'd at least keep the books going and everything. And they kind of did. They said, no, we're not going to stop printing these. They're going to be continued to be printed under the banner of Star Wars Legends, and we're going to keep we're not just going to kill those books off. And it's like, okay, so then we need to be telling people, read these books, buy these books, keep it alive, right? You just make sure people know it exists, and these are good stories too. And that's something that I thought was innocent enough and well enough, something I could get behind. But then things started to change. It wasn't about just keeping those books alive anymore. It started becoming about, they didn't just want the Legends books to stay relevant or to stay read. They wanted them to basically be the only thing. They wanted them reinstated. They wanted Disney to basically drop the movies and put those books back, which was kind of crazy. And I was like, why would you even think they would do that? And then they started launching campaigns to outright tank the sales of the other books. To whenever there was a Legends, or whenever there was a new canon book, they'd go out and buy a Legends book that took place around the same time instead, to show them that nobody cares about these new books. And every time there was speculation, and I do say speculation because oftentimes it turned out to be not true at all, that the books didn't do very well, or that they wouldn't make the bestseller list, these guys would actually go out and celebrate openly. And it was kind of disturbing. I mean, this stopped being about, wanting to enjoy those stories and making sure that other people knew that those stories existed. No, this became about actively trying to sabotage anything new going forward. They even made a point to talk about how they were going to make sure the movie bombed. They were going to, make sure people didn't go see it. They started spreading fake rumors intentionally just to try to get people mad enough to not see it. I know for a fact that several of them were behind the Facebook spoilers that were going around to everyone. They were intentionally trying to spoil the movie for people.
Oh, it was those guys?
Yeah, it was.
Oh man, I thought it was just like the resident douchebag who got to see the movie early.
And
wow. No, it was a joint effort by that movement. And the sad thing about it is that they were doing it thinking full. They've been doing this campaign to continuing to act this way because they think it's the right thing to do.
Well, I think you can kind of, I guess in their deranged little world, it comes back to the whole principle argument. It's the principle of things. I love these stories, and you're shitting on my stories in favor of doing something different in this weird way.
Chris, that's the thing, though. that's not what happened.
I
See, the
know
thing that,
exactly. Yeah.
and
Chris,
that's
the state of mind these guys have is almost like role play that they're kind of stuck in. They genuinely think that they're some kind of righteous resistance movement against the evil empire of Mickey Mouse, and they're actually going to bring him down and restore balance to the Star Wars universe. I mean, they get
yeah, they
way
have
into it.
creeds about it. They literally, there was one group that I stayed inside of just to see what it was being said. Because I never posted anything in it. They originally called themselves a resistance. Then when it was released that the Rebel Alliance and the New Republic, there was this new group called the Resistance. They changed their name to the Galactic Federal Alliance because they didn't want that connotation. They didn't want to have anything related to the film. And the thing that, like, I can even say too, like, to give some context for me with it, I love the legend stories. So when on April 25th, when they made that in 2014, when StarWars.com released this announcement, they released a huge article talking nothing but good things about legend stories and about how this is the decision made to, continue to make good stories, but, to have it be open to everyone. They released a 5-minute video with basically all the people that formed what is now for the canon, the story group, talking nothing but good things about the legend stories, about
Yeah.
how inspiring they were, and how, oh, my favorite's this one, and my favorite's
No,
this
no, no,
one,
no,
and
no, no,
oh,
no. But you see, Adam. The thing is, that was just to pander to folks. Like, oh, we love Legends, we love it, but we really don't, and we're just trying to, appease you nerds out there.
but that's what drives me more nuts than anything is the fact that they think that they're not like us. What Lucasfilm as a company up of is made up of fans. Lucasfilm is a company made of extremely talented in their jobs and in their fields of fans that love Star Wars. You have people in that company that what they live and they breathe Star Wars and they want this franchise to continue to do well. And so they holistic and I think the biggest angry thing about this whole Legends movement is when you really get down into some of the members of the groups, they haven't even read a majority, even 1/4 legend material that they're fighting so hard for. They're almost like first order stormtroopers that have been raised to think that Luke Skywalker is the enemy when he isn't. And that's like an honest comparison I would give it, because Legends is great and all, but like a lot of these people have not even touched a fourth of the material. And like coming from a guy that literally I can count on both hands the amount of Legends material that I have not read. So it's under 10. I know where this stuff has gone and where it hasn't gone. And I can say today, for the most part, give or take a handful of characters, this is so much better for the franchise in terms of its health and its longevity.
Well, I mean, I can tell you, I honestly probably haven't even been able to read half of it yet. I mean, I've read most of the novels, at least from the Galactic Civil War period onward. I've read some of the older stuff, and my biggest thing that I haven't really been able to touch is like the really really far back prequel stuff, like the Old Republic stuff and a lot of the comics I didn't get to read yet. But I mean, even with what I had read, which admittedly wasn't a lot of the stuff that they would point to as a problem in like the new canon stuff was prevalent. In fact, sometimes even more so in the legend stuff. Like a lot of things that they would complain about being in these books was in Legends, and it was actually not handled well. And I don't understand. I couldn't understand how they would think that this is a bad thing, but it's okay here. And that's usually their excuse, oh, it was done here, but it was done well. It's like, no, it really wasn't. In fact, it was kind of a complaint in the fandom for a while. But a lot of times they just really don't seem to know what they're doing or talking about, or they're just, going full fanboy, which seems to be
Mhm.
the more frequent problem.
Right.
And and the other thing that I noticed about that is they also like to talk about what's in the new books, and they pretty clearly haven't read it. Or they'll talk about what's going on in the comics now, and they clearly haven't read it. They're going off of articles that other people have posted about what's in the comics, and a lot of times they're like preview articles, and it's like you don't even know the full extent of what's going on. Like, uh, I don't know if I want to say this. This is kind of, well, you know what? It's a comic spoiler, and I don't know how many people are actually going to pick up and read the comic. But there's a character who, in the comics, in the current Star Wars comics, when she introduces herself as Han Solo's wife. Now the thing is, Han is insisting they were never married, that she's crazy, that you know, and she is pretty wacky. But the thing is, that's something that's elaborated on in the issue. But they, for months afterward, were still mad about that and talking about how it completely breaks even movie canon because and it makes Han look like a scumbag because he's sitting there romancing Leia while he's married to this other woman. And it's like you guys aren't even bothering to take a look and see about if what you're talking about is true. And I mean, it was stuff like that it gets on my case. It gets on my nerves, and I got on their case, and some of them got mad at me, and yeah, I left. I couldn't take it anymore. But another thing though, they can't even accept the fact, like Adam said, that even some of the old Legends authors are actually behind this decision. One of the things that actually kind of calmed me down about it was a letter that was written to the fans by, of all people, Timothy Zahn, who, for those who don't know, wrote the Thrawn trilogy, which is considered to be which was for a long time considered to be the
7,
best.
8, and 9.
Yeah, and they were considered to be like the best books in the expanded universe.
I think that was one of the few novels I actually started reading at some point.
Which one was it? Heir to the Empire? Or
it was the first one in.
Yeah, that's Heir to the Empire.
Okay.
Yep, Heir to the Empire. That pretty much every Star Wars fan that started in the EU has ended up reading Heir to the Empire, whether it was via like the Dark Horse comic book adaptation or the novel itself. And like Danny, like you were saying, like everyone viewed that trilogy of books as 7, 8, and 9 for a long majority of time because originally, and I'll let Danny get back to what he was saying, that what they ended up doing was they would release trilogy of books. They would do a trilogy and then bam, another trilogy and another trilogy and another trilogy. So in a sense, fans used to be able to look at each trilogy of books and go, okay, this is 7, 8, 9, this is 10, 11, 12, this is 13, 14, 15. And that's how the expanded universe started to live and grow.
And then we got to the new Jedi Order series.
Yeah, 21 books. How you doing, fam? Y'all like sagas?
Wait, 21 books? What?
21 books in one storyline.
What?
Yes. And this
don't get me wrong though, it was a friggin' amazing storyline, and I'd love to see them try to incorporate it into the new canon. But yeah,
21 books.
New Jedi Order, Chris, to give you a quick idea, was basically so when the license got traded from Bantam Books to Del Rey wanted to kickstart off their story of books with this mega. It was huge. It was so big, in fact, that the first novel, Vector Prime, had a TV commercial with Mark Hamill for the first time since Return of the Jedi coming back to reprise Luke in a voiceover talking about basically like low-key giving some hints like the stories that happened in between, but saying that like we weren't prepared for this. And the new Jedi Order series started, and it started off with a huge bang. It killed off Chewbacca in it, and then it was a 21-book series that featured many beloved character deaths from characters that developed over the previous years, and it was a mega. It was a mega hit, but it was just so long too. And it was crazy. It was great though. It was great.
It was great, but I remember at the time, like that, it was really divisive among fans too, especially when they killed Chewbacca. And then Anakin Solo died, and just they got so mad about that. Like it completely ruined the franchise for them for a while, and then they got over it. But then Mara Jade getting killed by Jason in the Legacy of the Force series, that was just beyond the pale, ruined the franchise, and then they got over it and they moved it.
And then you got to come full circle though, Danny. In 2014, oh my God, why are these no longer canon.
I know. It's like they hated these decisions so much, thought they ruined the franchise, and yet when they're rid of them finally, and it's like we have a chance to do things over and avoid making any kind of mistake like that. Nope, 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 nope. I want my mistakes back. I want them back now. I want them back. You know what though? Honestly, in retrospect, I mean, I can't see that buyout as a bad thing anymore because I mean we got rid of the Crystal Star. We got rid of friggin' Star Killers, OP Gary Stu ass. We got to.
Traitor! We better have TR-8R come out of here and fight us, Dan. We gotta be careful. We were trained the legends.
But I mean, there's stuff in there that I love and I still love. And I mean, I still love the new Jedi Order series. I still love the Thrawn trilogy. I like the Hand of Thrawn duology because it was some really. That's the thing I love. The Thrawn trilogy and the Hand of Thrawn duology actually both directly seeded the new Jedi Order series and the invasion.
And at the time it was done, nobody even knew it. Like Timothy Zahn, like set that up basically perfectly, and Del Rey just jumped with it so well, and just it was brilliantly done. It was so well done.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, they're just really subtle hints, and when you consider how much time passed between the writing of those and then the release of the first book, even of the new Jedi Order, it just, man, that was like the best case of seeding, and you know, oh man, if you ever get the time, you do need to at least read those again because those are really good books, but oh wow, we got way off track.
Yeah, I'm just like I should not have asked.
But too long. To make a long story short here, you know, TLDR. They crazy. They crazy. I'm sorry.
Crazy.
Now I want to pose a question to both of y'all. When it comes to this group of people, do you think at some point they are going to die off and go away? Or do you think this is going to be a long-standing thing?
Well, I think the sane ones are going to die off and go away. And what I mean by that is that there are still some people in those groups and even some entire groups unto themselves that are still fairly sane about it and everything. But I think they're going to go the way of the dinosaur pretty quick. More and more, it seems a lot of people in those groups seem to be popping up kind of militant. They still constantly go to the Star Wars books page that Del Rey runs. And, I mean, they are the nicest people there, too. And they will talk to you. They will engage with you. You know, you say, hey, I just got your book in and I love it. You post a picture of it. They'll like it. They'll comment on it. You know, they'll do it on Twitter, too. They'll do it on Tumblr, too. I mean, they are very open with the fan base. They engage with them. Nicest people in the world. And they just tolerate the living crap out of all these spam posts demanding more Legends books, or, you know, this book was terrible. Why don't you put out more Legends books? And it's like, I can feel them just having to resist the urge to lash out at these people and just politely say, we don't have any plans for any more Legends material at this time. You know, we're focusing on canon stuff going forward. And the Lucasfilm Story Group, even when they were at Star Wars Experience, they had a panel. Which, Chris, if I give you the link, can you give that to people?
Of course, I'll put it in the video description and annotation.
All right. All right. Well, they went they basically laid out everything that they're trying to do, and they took fan questions. And people even asked them, you know, is it possible that we'll get more Legends stuff? You know, see these storylines continued and fleshed out, and maybe get kind of some closure. At least, you know, existing ones, even if we don't get like new storylines, can we at least get closure for the ones that are still kind of out there? Or since they're all Legends now anyway, can we maybe get some of the books that some of the people who were considering writing them, you know, never got to write? Like, who was it, I think, had that book that they were going to write about Luke and Mara and Ben just doing
the best guy to do it, Timothy Zahn. He originally had planned to write a novel about Luke, Mara, and Ben going off on an adventure together. But when they killed her off, couldn't do anything about it anymore. He couldn't write a story about her.
Well, honestly, I mean, it's all Legends now anyway, and if they are going to flesh everything out, I'd love to see them like cap it off with that. Just it'd be kind of symbolic, I guess. But I mean, they were very polite about it too to the people who were asking. We don't have plans for that now. We really want to focus on things going forward with the canon, but they said maybe in a few years, once we have all that up and running, we can go back and we can take a look at this and see about closing up some of this stuff that you guys are concerned about. And they also said that some of the characters that people loved from the expanded universe, there's nothing necessarily preventing them from fitting into the canon. They just have to find a new way to fit it. And he said obviously we'd probably have to tweak them some and tweak some backstories, and but like if we could find a way to justify their existence, I would love to be able to put some of them back in. And one of the characters that people have been specifically asking about for a long time has been, of course, Mara Jade. And honestly, from what I've seen so far, there's really no way that they couldn't just tweak her story a little bit and put her back in there, and they very well might. I don't know, but then again, maybe they won't. I can't say for sure. I don't think even they can say for sure right now. But even when it comes to canon characters, like from the movies, one of the things that they've been very clear about is that they're not going to include a character just for the sake of having them there. They want them to feel like there's a reason that this character should be there.
Yes, very much so. Chris, to answer your question, I think I'd say I totally will. I think they're going, like kind of what Danny said. I think they're going to die off. But I do believe that eventually there will become such a thing as a Legends timeline that's continued, or at least closed off in some shape or form,
Oh yeah.
or stories that are written underneath a non-canon label, as the old Infinity stories were. Like there was the Infinity's versions of A New Hope, Empire. And I believe that that's something that could potentially happen. It's just a thing too when it comes to that whole thing. What I believe the fans are finally going to realize, and what's going to push them over the edge, Chris, is this: the content that is coming out is of quality work. It is very good and it's very enjoyable. And even when it's bad, it's not as bad, or it is as bad as some of the past Legends stuff, which I think makes it fit in just perfectly fine. And what they're also going to realize is there's two big book examples I can give in the current canon that reinforce some of the stuff we learned from Legends. The first one being Tarkin. Tarkin's novel has a lot of hints because of the author that we had for it to past Legends content. And just to give a quick rundown of some of that stuff too, there's references to the Darth Plagueis book. There's references to Dark Lord or Rise of Darth Vader, the book that takes place immediately after Revenge of the Sith. The one that took right before Revenge of the Sith in the old canon, which was Labyrinth of Evil, Cloak of Deception. Pretty much James Luciano, any novel that he wrote, he kind of referenced inside Tarkin, slowly. But he also referenced the planet that I forgot the name of the planet in the novel, but it was a big planet that took place inside the Republic comic book and the Dark Times comic book, with Vader going to this planet dealing with a rogue, dealing with some of the remains of the Jedi Order. And so that's what they're going to realize too, with things like that. And then the Ultimate Star Wars Guide, or the Ultimate Star Wars, which which is the first piece of like canon visual dictionary that came out, that canonizes a lot of things, because
That book is amazing.
yeah, because they basically said, it's like something like Danny said about the background characters, or even the background characters. They said we're not really going to tweak their stories or anything unless they need to be tweaked to be used in something new. But for the most part, random. I'm not going to give an exact example because I don't want to be wrong, but I'll give an example. What's basically what they kind of said. Random character you saw on the Mos Eisley Cantina. His backstory in Legends is still basically the exact same in the canon, but there just isn't a novel anymore that's canon that tells you that story.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
yeah. And another thing that I feel like I need to clarify real quickly is while a lot of his works are referenced in Tarkin, the story group did clarify that doesn't necessarily mean that work itself is still canon. What they've done and basically been fairly clever about is taken like the important bits of these stories and canonized them, but the details in and of themselves aren't. So, but because the
Exactly.
details aren't, I mean, you could basically just go back and unless and until they write a story contradicting it, you could just assume that most of what happened there happened. But
Exactly.
or you could just come up with your own version of what happened for now. That's kind of the beauty of it. You can theorize. You can did this happen? Did it happen differently? What happened here? But yeah, they are kind of reseeding a few select things into the canon, and if these guys were paying attention, they'd see that. But in the end, I do think the sane ones are going to kind of go away and eventually realize, hey, this isn't worth it. We could still read our old books. That being said, I really think the militant ones, unfortunately, are still going to be there and be screaming and just have to be ignored. Because some of these people just really are too far gone. And now we're free to move on. I'm jumping in my ride, I'm heading out tonight. I'm solo, I'm Han Solo, I'm Han Solo, I'm Han Solo.